This is a talk given by Reverend Mary Shaver at CSL, Benicia.
Let it go. Give it up. Let it go. So, use it constructively. Well, that's what she says. She says, trade anger for forgiveness. Right? And we're about forgiveness today. Say, trade anger for forgiveness, and we lay those burdens down. We can take that energy and work to turn the world around. We can reach out to a child in need or heal a broken heart. We can make a friend or write a song and create a work of art. Yes, when we're done with anger, we can let forgiveness flow. And I love the idea that we can just let it go. Oh my gosh, that sounds so easy, doesn't it? Just let it go. I mean, it's real easy to say that. Can you just say those words? Let it go. That was easy to say. Yeah. Okay. Anybody still holding on to just like a little bit of anger here and there? Yeah, just a little bit, just a little bit. I know. And so this is what Christianity brings to us. We've been studying from this book by Sage Bennett, which is The Wisdom Walk. And so we talked a little bit a couple weeks ago about what we learned from Islam, which is surrendering to prayer. We talked about letting go, what we receive from Taoism, just the letting go, letting it flow. And today we're talking about Christianity and receiving the gift of forgiveness as part of our spiritual path. So all of these are tools that work for us as we work them. And so as we talk about that today, consider what you might have learned along the way about forgiveness. And I'm sure, you know, lots of us have taken forgiveness workshops and forgiveness classes, and, you know, some of us need like real in-depth work. Did you ever, you know, do that? And forgive and forgive and forgive, and it's like, oh, my brother, I still get this hit when I hear his name. Obviously, there's something still to forgive, and, you know, so keep letting that go. And eventually, I'll tell you what, it does get better. And it gets better, and sometimes you find that little sliver that's still stuck there, and it's working its way out, but it's really irritating when it does. So this is what we're going to talk about today, is a little bit about forgiveness. So we have from Christianity, one of the things is the prayer of St. Francis. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there's hatred, let me sow love. Where there's offense, pardon. For it is in giving that we receive, and it is pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we're born to eternal life. So the Christianity comes from the teachings of Jesus. And in Christianity, there's a couple things you might want to know. God is omnipotent and transcendent. Christian belief maintains that in God there are three persons, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. And Jesus is the second person, so he's the Son in that Trinity. And from Jesus is where we get the teachings. Now, in science of mind, a lot of the science of mind parables and teachings also come through Christianity. And what we say then is that we are following the teachings of Jesus, not necessarily worshiping that person, and that there are many masters. So when people are asked sometimes, is science of mind a Christian religion? It's like, well, we follow the teachings of Jesus. But if you say that to a devout Christian, they will say, you're out of here, you know, so it doesn't make any difference. When Ernest Holmes started the science of mind, people were coming from all different religions, and he had studied all different religions, as well as, you know, Far East traditions, and things that come to us from different places. So we take the best of that, as masters have done across eons, and there is that central truth. And it shows up in a lot of different forms. So the teachings of Jesus are based on love. That is what he brought. If you've read the New Testament up until that time in the Jewish tradition, it was eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. And then Jesus brought the idea of just forgive them. No wonder they got rid of him. I mean, what is that about? That's just like, what about what you owe me? It's like, you have to forgive it. So, what is forgiveness? First of all, we started out with the bit on anger. Anger often precedes forgiveness because that's how you know there's something to forgive. It gives you that little sign, that's your little indication. Just like when we feel pain in the body, it's like you've touched something hot. Oh, that's painful, so let me take my hand away. Same with anger. When we see that anger, when we feel that anger, it's like something there is not right, it's not good for me, so let me move away from that. Let me do something that is different than that. And one of the things we can do is look at it differently. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and she'd been gone for the weekend and came back, and her sister had landscaped a piece of the yard beautifully, put in some beautiful flowers and bougainvillea. This is in Texas, and some other things. And it's like, wow, what a really nice thing she did. And yet my friend was really upset. It's like, she came into my space. She moved what I was doing there. And so there was anger. Anger is what came up. So it's a totally different perspective. And I'm sure her sister thought, oh, I'm doing this wonderful thing for you. I'm beautifying this area that obviously you don't know how to do. Little judgment there. Little judgment there. Exactly. But that's what my friend thought. It's like my sister thought I wasn't doing what I needed to do in this area, and so she fixed it. And I thought, oh my gosh, how often have I done that? How often have I thought I'm helping somebody, and maybe it's not what they wanted. Maybe they had a different concept. Maybe they were just fine the way it is. So what happens then? Self-forgiveness. Because then I was angry at myself. Oh my gosh, how could I do that? Even on a bad day. It's like, okay, even on a bad day, I'm a child of God. Even on a bad day, I'm a child. Even when I mess something up, there is that forgiveness that allows me to remember my wholeness, that I'm complete and perfect and whole. And sometimes this doesn't happen overnight. I remember in my own life, I had a wonderful childhood, and I really didn't know it, but it was really good now that I look back. But at the time, I was like, I'm the sixth of 8 children. It's like, my mother doesn't love me. She's abandoned me. She had 2 more children. Oh my gosh. And it was like, this colored some of my early years. And I'll tell you when the forgiveness happened. And this is a little moving, so bear with me as we move through the forgiveness. Because later on in her life, she didn't know who I was anymore. And so I introduced myself to her one time. I was caring for her in a situation. She'd been at my sister's house, and I went to my sister's house and to do the elder care for her so she could have a respite. And so I said, well, I'm your daughter. And then I got up and left the table and went to the bathroom. And I came back, and she's in the middle of the floor crying. And I thought, oh my gosh, what has happened here? And she said, well, did they treat you okay? And I said, who? And she said, well, we must have given you up for adoption. So did they treat you okay? It's like, oh, Mom. It's like forgiveness, just total forgiveness. It's like there is nothing there to hold any resentment against. Nothing there. A different perspective, a totally different perspective. So this is what happens when we come into that place of anger. We've made some kind of judgment. Correct? Incorrect? It's not serving us. Not serving us at all. And so how to change that around? How to look at it differently? So, first of all, a new perspective, turn around. So I think this is what happens when we turn the other cheek. Also a Christian tradition, turn the other cheek. You turn around. You see something from a different perspective. Now, there are things that happen to people that are seemingly unforgivable. I don't know if you've seen the movie The Power of the Heart. It came out last October, and we were fortunate enough to go to Santa Barbara to the World Awakening Film Festival down there, and that's where they did a big release of it. And it's so moving. It's so moving. And there's a lot of forgiveness shown in that movie. And one of the pieces of forgiveness, and I don't want to give away the whole story, but one of the pieces is a woman who was... well, she was part of the tribe that wasn't in favor at the time. And you may have heard her story. I know Wayne Dyer has talked about her a bit. And this movie kind of depicts that entire story. And, okay, bottom line, she comes to forgiveness. And then you look at that and say, if this woman can forgive this atrocity that was done to her and her family, and again, atrocity, there's judgment, then surely I can forgive somebody cutting in front of me on the freeway. I can forgive that waitress that didn't hurry up over here. I can forgive all those little things that might irritate me and go to that place of self-forgiveness. How do I forgive myself? So forgiveness happens when we turn around, turn it the other way, look at something differently. Because what we've done in anger is formed a judgment about somebody that's hurt us, something that's wrong, hurtful, unjustified. Oh, I hate that one. I hate to be unjustly accused. So that initial anger turns into resentment, which then hardens our hearts and our minds, and that's not good for us. So when we talk about forgiveness, it's not just forgiving somebody out there, and it's not just forgiving ourselves, it's also allowing us to breathe a little bit more freely. Again, in this power of the heart, you'll see how the heart acts differently when there is forgiveness present. You'll see the difference in resentments and judgments and how the heart can be open. And so that unresolved anger, bottom line, high blood pressure, leading to illness, depression, anger, depression go together. And so seeing through the eyes of anger really hurts us. And so this is forgiveness. This is from the Wikipedia, which everybody knows is the expert on these things. Forgiveness is the intentional and voluntary process by which a victim, oh my gosh, undergoes a change in feelings and attitude regarding an offense. Lets go of negative emotions, such as vengefulness, with an increased ability to wish the offender well. So Jesus was very clear about this, and this is what he brought to Christianity, was this idea of forgiveness. You remember the story about the woman that was going to be stoned. And Jesus said, those of you who are without sin, cast the first stone. So this is what he brought to us. And now forgiveness doesn't mean that we condone behavior that is unacceptable. It doesn't mean that. Nor does it mean that we have to be friends with somebody that we feel have done something to us. But it is a choice, and it frees us. It frees us to choose again, to choose something else. And we notice that we need forgiveness when we want somebody to be different than they are. It's like, oh, I really wish you would be this way. And then it's like, okay, forgiveness, because we're making judgments against them. So we are the ones that are stuck with the condemnation, not the people we judge. It is said that there's really no need to forgiveness because there's nothing to forgive. It's all in how we look at it. I've heard that before. Don't take it personally. What are the other 4 agreements? What are the other 4 agreements? Don't take it personally. You're kidding. It's not about me? I can't believe that.
The guy that pulls in front of you and in the...
It's not about me? He's not just trying to slow me down? Okay. Okay, well, now I have a new perspective.
There you go.
There we go. So, but you mentioned don't take it personally. Other 4 agreements, be impeccable with your word. Okay. Do the very best you can. And I'm missing one. Make no assumption. Oh, that is, I never get that one. I have to study that one a little bit more. Don't make assumptions. Okay, very good. So that's the whole idea behind this forgiveness being healthier. And so how do we do that? How do we go about forgiving? It's a process. First of all, it may not happen in a flash like it did with my mother. It may happen over some period of time, as with my brother. Now, again, my brother didn't do anything to me. And I really know that, and I kind of knew it at the time. But I had just graduated from college, and I needed a place to go and establish myself. And I said, you know, can I come and stay with you? And basically he said, yes, but for a limited period of time. And what I heard was, no way. So it's like, forgiveness. And I'm so glad that I didn't go stay with him, because then I went someplace else and ended up meeting my wonderful husband of 31 years. Our anniversary is Tuesday. So we're counting, 31, yeah. Okay, 29 and... So these things happen in a different way for us. So let me get back to how to forgive. Okay, confront your anger. So face the fact that you're angry. And lots of times, especially as religious scientists, it's like, I'm not angry, I'm not angry, I'm not angry, damn it. So, confronting that anger and say, yeah, you know, there's something here for me to look at. So confronting it, acknowledging that anger. And then it's like, who are you going to forgive? Maybe there's a picture of somebody out there that you want to forgive. And yet, maybe it's in here. Maybe it's forgiving yourself. Maybe forgiving yourself for making assumptions. Maybe forgiving yourself for not turning the cheek. Maybe forgiving yourself for being exactly who you are. You know, at the end of this service, we always say, just as I am and just as I am not. Is this not a forgiveness practice right there? Just as I am. Just as I am not. Thank goodness I'm not. So we confront the anger, decide who it is that we're going to forgive, and then act as if. Have you ever had to do that with someone? It's like, I really don't want to go to that meeting because so-and-so is going to be there, and last time they were there, they said something. So what do you do there? Act as if. Go into that saying, I forgive John, Paul, and Ringo for giving up on the Beatles. I forgive.
Can't forgive that. No.
Well, see, even that we have to forgive. Even for that. I forgive. So just repeat that to yourself. And you will find that in that acting as if, in making that affirmation, I forgive. I forgive. I forgive so-and-so. I forgive Mom for having the audacity to have 2 more children after me. It's like, I forgive. And then as you say that, you may recognize that that wasn't the issue at all. You know, I forgive myself for feeling abandoned. I forgive myself for not seeing the truth. I forgive myself. And so if you're going into a place or a situation, okay, Thanksgiving dinner with the family. Anybody have things to forgive around that? We have our family of choice with us for Thanksgiving these days, which is also very interesting as things shift and move in that. I forgive. I forgive my family for being vegetarians at Thanksgiving time. And then we see through the eyes of compassion. Compassion. Again, this is what Jesus taught us as he was on the cross. I forgive them. I forgive them, for they know not what they do. I forgive them. And so we start to see the story in a different way. And it's really not part of our drama. So we understand that this is happening in this way for a reason. So we come into that place of forgiveness. And through doing this, it brings out many things. We release judgment. We accept people who and where they are. I think it's easier as I get older to accept people who and where and what they are. And it's especially easier moving from a different place and coming into something totally new. So it's like, oh, I don't have any history with these people, so I love everybody. It's like, yes, new people. And isn't that interesting? What would it be like if we saw new people every day in the eyes of those that we've known for a long time? Seeing them new every day. That's what forgiveness does. It's that cleansing. So we can focus on the pain and resentment if we want, but that separates us. And what connects us is the love and the compassion. And so this is why Jesus taught us 70 times 70. How many times to forgive? 70 times 7. Now, you can do 70 times 7, and you can actually count them out, or you can just do a lot, because that's really what 70 times 7 meant in those days. That's like more than you can imagine. So I thought we'd take just a moment today to do a little process. And this is just going to be a short meditation where we're going to identify some of the people we're holding resentments against ourselves, against us, that we're holding resistance. I've already forgiven. I don't even know who they are anymore. Anyhow, we're going to discover that, and then do a little process of forgiving. So, if you'll join me with that, let's just start that now. So let's just visualize your heart. And just imagine that there are people walking toward you. And allow yourself to imagine that your heart has corridors that people in your life can walk through. And let appear at the entrance of your heart someone who you want to forgive. Someone. And just invite them in. And just trust that process, knowing that whoever shows up is the perfect and right person for whatever reason. Maybe it's known to you, maybe it's unknown. And notice, perhaps, if this person is afraid to enter because they felt condemned by you or they felt your criticism. And notice who enters joyously, feeling surrounded by love and acceptance. And now just imagine as you take this person in, saying, I forgive you. I forgive you. And you might add, I forgive you for. I forgive you for. And now imagine Just imagine that you asked to be forgiven by this person. Just imagine, please forgive me. And now allow that person to say, I forgive you. I forgive you. And you might look now in the corridors of your heart and see if there's anyone else stepping forward. Anyone else. And if there is, again, I forgive you. I forgive you. And please forgive me. Please forgive me. And now just imagine the people that you've forgiven and yourself in a circle. And allow anyone else to enter into that circle who wants to be forgiven or someone you want to forgive. And continue to draw the larger circle. So this is amazing grace. This circle of love, being cleansed, allowing it to let go, being willing to make amends, and now as you allow these people to move out again through the corridors of your heart with blessing, see the joy, feel the joy of release. And you can do this any time on your own, bringing people into your heart, having a conversation with them, letting them go, blessing them on their way. And so as you come back into this room, I'd like to conclude by saying, accepting that invitation to engage in the practice of forgiveness will open the door to insights, feelings, and changes in attitude that you might not even know you had. And forgiveness frees you. Forgiveness frees you. Catherine Ponder wrote, "Forgiveness is a pleasant inner act that helps you give up negative emotions and clears away the blocks to your good." And as we remember this, remember to forgive yourself for everything you could have done, you would have done, you should have done.